Hello and welcome to Eavesdropping at the Movies. I'm Mike.
And I'm José.
And we've just watched Cold Weather.
Yes.
On MUBI again.
Yes.
We're having a MUBI,
a MUBI week.
Love affair. It's from 2010. It's an American movie. It's mumblecore. It's mystery. It's a little bit crimey, but it's a little bit kooky.
Yes.
Because of the
quirky.
Because of the mumblecore sort of aspect to
yes.
it. It's written and directed by Aaron Katz,
whom I've never heard of.
Nor I. And stars Chris Lankenow as this guy Doug, who so it's mumblecore. So they're white people. They're in the Pacific Northwest. They're in their 20s, 30s. They're kind of a little bit aimless in life, and
underemployed.
Yeah. So this guy Doug has dropped out of college or university
in Chicago.
Yeah, he was studying forensic science and criminology. He moves back home, moves in with his sister, Gail, who's played by Trias Kelly-Dunn. And he gets a job sort of doing nights at an ice-making factory. There's this whole thing about... never even thought about where ice came from, but, well, they buy it. You can buy it in bags.
Yes.
And it's his job to put it in bags and move it around. That's what he starts spending his time doing. He makes a friend there.
Yes. Raul Castillo.
Raul Castillo plays Carlos.
Yes, whom I love.
Yeah, you recognise, I didn't.
Yes, I recognise him from Looking, the television series in which, he played the boyfriend of the protagonist. Or, it's about this gay protagonist played by, my God, someone very famous who's a Broadway star and was in Hamilton. He was the original George in Hamilton.
Jonathan Groff.
Yeah.
He was in Mindhunter.
That's right. So he was Jonathan Groff's love interest, and he was very good in that as well. They all were, actually. Jonathan Groff was fantastic. And I thought he was great in this.
Yeah, I like the relationship the two of them have. I think they play off each other really nicely, and in fact, I think the relationships aren't the best thing about this. The brother-sister relationship is equally sort of charming, and entertaining, and well observed.
Yes.
I think it's a film about those observations because above everything, it becomes a thriller. It becomes this thriller about Doug's ex-girlfriend, who you meet earlier on, and she spends some time with them. Her name is Rachel. She's played by Robin Raccoon. But then she's supposed to be going on a date with Carlos.
Yes.
And she doesn't turn up, and he gets very, very worried. And they start to become amateur detectives.
Yes, they've been reading Sherlock Holmes.
There's a thing about how Doug loves Sherlock Holmes. He gets Carlos into it, and then they start becoming sort of Sherlock Holmes. And I think that, in a way, I would have liked, actually, if... I would have enjoyed this film had it not had any thriller element, I would have enjoyed this film had it been about the four of them, I think.
Yes.
Because those scenes early on where they're spending time together are really, really enjoyable.
They're lovely, yes.
And they you can see them bonding and getting on, and the conversations are interesting and funny and well observed. And it's not like laugh out loud funny, but it's just... there's something really nice about spending time with them.
Gently rollicking, kind of... I was charmed, I think is my word for it, really.
Yeah. I think it's directed really well. I think
I'm not sure about that, actually. I think the actors are directed very well. And actually, I was just reading in the wiki entry saying something that the screenplay was very tightly structured, but that the actors wrote their own dialogue.
Yeah, that's a kind of a trait of a lot of mumblecore films.
Yes, but this one ostensibly extremely so in the sense that at least the lead protagonist, what's his name again?
Chris Lankenow.
Yeah, he got a co-screen play credit. And you can tell, I mean, to me the film is like... To me the best things about the film were, as you say, the relationships. Yeah, the kind of, how well observed the relationships between the friends and then the brother and sister are. And I also loved the whole way it was lit. Yeah. So kind of, you were saying, it's natural light, but you have to capture that natural light. You have to film it, and you have to know how to film it. And I think it looks it looks surprisingly beautiful, which a lot of these mumblecore films don't. What I really intensely disliked about it was the music. I thought the score was awful, right? And it kind of...
It's oppressively used. It plays over far too loudly on bits, and it's to the point of distraction.
Yes, it's kind of, sometimes the dialogue feels like it's under the music, right? And I just don't like the sounds of it. I mean, I like what it's trying to do, because it's kind of creating this rollicking tung, like a fun kind of gait to the film. But then it's also overladen with this industrial sound, which is oppressive. Yeah.
I didn't mind the composition of the soundtrack. I must say, I kind of liked, because they become this sort of amateur sort of brother sister detective team, and when the music's playing over that, it kind of has that same sort of amateuristic feel.
Well, I like the beat of it, but I actually hated the production of it. Yeah. It sounded too industrial, too clangy, and I found it oppressive. I also felt that there were sometimes camera movements that I just didn't get, right? That are just there for their own sake. So there was this very slow zoom on, I think it was the brother and sister over the bridge, and kind of, you think, why are we seeing this in this way? What is it signifying? I just didn't get it. And it's a really long zoom. And then finally you get very close up to the protagonist. And I think it's his sister. It might be his ex.
No, it's the brother and sister.
It's the brother and sister. Yeah. There's the waterfall rolling behind him. And then it cuts to abruptly. So actually...
It cuts to something else.
Yeah. So I don't get that.
I know what you mean. And when I said it's well directed, I knew that's what you'd say in response. But... And I agree that there are one or two shots like that I think are unmotivated.
Yes.
But I think the direction is, it's more than shot selection, as you said. The direction of the actors is very good. I think it's also about timing and atmosphere. I think the tone that the director sets is really precise and strong.
Yes,
and just right.
I would agree with that, and it's very. It's gently pleasing. The film has a gentleness of tone, actually.
Yeah.
Even though, kind of it is a detective story. But it's kind of like it's almost like a quotidian detective story. It's something that could happen in the everyday, and the everyday...
It's believable, isn't it?
Yeah, and the everyday is well observed, right?
It's believable in that you could sort of... It's like you go, if your friend was missing, what would I do? And you kind of go, I might behave like these guys.
Except, when the film began, I thought, oh, fuck no. It's one of those films, right? Like, it's one of those films about these Sado-Americans bored to death, having nothing to do, and kind of the film making you watch, their particularities, really. As if somehow every little odd thing is meant to be like riveting and fascinating, which I just don't find them to be. So I kind of, in the first 10 minutes of this film, it had to convince me, really. So, and it won me over. I was really charmed by it. And I think, your observation that it's because, of the maintenance of this tone throughout, which is supported by the pacing of the film, the rhythms, but also the actors. I think to me that's its greatest strength. And also, I loved seeing Portland.
Yeah, you identified the Pacific Northwest right away.
Yeah.
You didn't say this is in Portland, I don't think, but you said, oh, is this the Pacific Northwest? And I double-checked for you.
Yes, and it was. And actually, I think, one of the things that I love about a particular kind of independent cinema. Well, actually, no. It's one of the things that I like about cinema, but that you get much less than you think, is just the ability to see a different place, right? Who's the director who did Mud?
I can't remember.
Okay, let's look him up. Yeah, because he does this very precisely.
You love Mud.
I love Mud, and I love that director.
Jeff Nichols.
Jeff Nichols, his early films were all set in I forget what the place, Arkansas. Yeah,
Yeah, it's where he's from.
as where he's from, and you get a real sense of place in his films, right? You have these silos and rivers and wheat, and countryside, and the closer the camera looks, the more you see that the iron is corrugated or things are slightly falling apart, right? So there's this combination of like the beauty of the place and then, the kind of the deterioration of the infrastructure around it, and you get a feel for the place, right? And it's lovely to learn about a new place and what it is and what it looks like. And this is the kind of thing that you get in American independent cinema that you almost never get in Hollywood, right? Hollywood is either New York, LA, or even when it's set in Kansas, it's like you'll have like 3 scenes of some street in Kansas, and then it'll all be studio shot anyway, right? So to be able to get a sense of like a place like this film offers, I think is also a real achievement, and for me a real pleasure to see. That's all.
I think in the when it starts to become a sort of mystery thriller, there's one thing that annoyed me, which is it's a plot niggle really. It's the code that Rachel uses.
Yes.
That they then decode, and it's to do with the baseball years, and then the names of the players that the stats relate to spells out "Meet me here." Spoilers. I because I don't know, there was just I thought she wouldn't make that code, and I don't think he'd decode it either. There was that just completely took me out of the movie for a second, when they were doing that. Despite the fact that following people solving the mystery is good fun.
It's interesting because that's the kind of question we would only ask of a film with this tone. I mean, you'd never ask that of any of the Sherlock Holmes films, which are equally ridiculous.
I don't know that that's necessarily the case. I mean, pretty much everything that happens, certainly in the new series of Sherlock, the BBC series that's been going on for 8 years, whatever, I basically don't believe anything that happens in that.
Well, and I don't believe anything that happens in the Robert Downey Jr. films, if you're kind of, trying to be realistic about it. So, I don't think it's... I mean, I just accepted it because, he is meant to be a forensic scientist and... to have been trained in certain things.
Well, maybe
and you
he
see
would
him,
solve it, but I don't think she would create it. I don't think it's a thing that would come to mind to her to build a code out of,
Well, maybe. But, we know that... I mean, we see him in the library reading books on how to decode, right? Yeah. So, which is more information than any of the other Sherlock Holmes films give you. What I didn't like was... this is really a small-scale film about... 4 at most 5 characters. Yeah?
Yeah, 4. I mean, who's the 5th?
Well, the villain. Yeah, which you barely see. He's like a shadowy figure.
Yeah.
So it pissed me off at the end that they didn't bring the characters into the picture.
Oh no, you mean right at the end when they're sat up on top of the multi-story car park waiting for them to arrive?
Yes.
No, that's exactly how I expected it to end. I
didn't like that.
Because I think ultimately, you're right, it's about the 4 characters, but fundamentally the brother and sister. And then...
Well, no, that's not true. I mean, I thought, for much of the film, it's about the 2 guys, right? And then the ex-girlfriend comes into the picture. The sister really doesn't get much to do until the very end.
Not the very end. I mean, she's brought
until
into
the end.
She's brought into the investigation.
Okay, until she's brought into until that moment where he says, "Can I borrow your car?" No, or wait until I finish my shower, right? So until
that's the stuff that's really valuable. That's the stuff like it's not about the solving the crime or whatever. It's about the arguments about who's going to drive the car.
Well, that's true, and I like all of that, but I do think structurally the other 2 characters are left out of the film at the end. And for me that's a problem. I think they should have been brought back in. I mean, there's so few of them. I don't see why they wouldn't. It also leaves the question of, well, what's going to happen to his ex now?
Well, yeah, but I mean, what do you want, a sequel?
No, I don't want a sequel, but I want some kind of, at least an imaginary resolution, right? Because, the thing right now, what is the assumption? Yeah, that she's going to give the money back. If she gives the money back, they'll know that she got someone to get it. You know, she's someone who's still in danger by the end of the film, really.
No, I know what you mean. I do.
So,
I can see why you have a problem with it, but I didn't. I must say, felt comfortable. It felt like the right way to end it.
right.
Concentrating back on those two, because he starts off with those two at the dinner with the parents, and it's all about them sort of living together and trying to cope, and it ends up with the two of them being comfortable, seeing their memories of their mixtape.
Yes. I like all of that, but I still think
They're left out.
yeah, I still think it's not a very good movie. I mean, you know.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I mean, despite the fact I've said positive things.
Yes.
Basically all the way through. No, I mean, it is a good movie, but I think it's a movie that it caught me in exactly the right mood.
Yes.
You know, there's a mood in which I could have watched this and I would have absolutely hated every second.
I was fearful, really, because, but you know, I mean, to be fair, I was charmed by it. I'm sorry that these films only get to us through MUBI. You know, I think there would have been an audience for this type of film at the Electric, even if it's just, you know, some students. And I kind of am a bit resentful that...
We don't know that it wasn't shown at the Electric.
I suppose that's true. It might have been shown for a night or two and we just missed it. Right? So I'm very glad I saw it, finally. The film is 2010, so I'm seeing it like 10 years after it came out. Mm-hmm. But I also don't feel I've missed out on a major moment or a major talent or... No. So, yeah...
It's a curiosity.
Yeah.
In the other film.
Yes.
As opposed to one of the things... This isn't a structuring, defining moment of...
Yeah, and it isn't a lost masterpiece either.
No.
But it's a very charming... watch. It did kind of win me over at the end.
Mm. Yeah, it won me. I was fearful because I think maybe even more than you, I was kind of thinking, ugh, American indie. You know, like, that he thanks Noah Baumbach in the credits. And it's like, well, but no, and I was surprised at how much I liked it, despite the fact that nothing was happening. Like, it spends this, it takes these shots and it just lingers on, you know, your main character just reading a book, and it sits there for 5-6 seconds longer than it might otherwise, with him doing nothing but reading the book still, and things like that. And it's the kind of thing that I think if I weren't in the right mood, or if it were a different film, I had no tolerance for. But in this, I just went in with the world it was creating and the people it was showing me and talking about.
I'm very glad that we saw it because, I mean, just thinking out loud now, it's the type of work that's so much about tone and attitude, yeah? And there really isn't a place for it in cinema any longer, right? And actually, there's never been much of a place for it on television. You know, this is too slow-moving and too observational, you know, for television, really. Yeah, so it's a kind of work, you know, that you only get through indie cinema, yeah? Mm. So, yeah.
Jim Jarmusch would be maybe like your biggest example.
Well, and Hal Hartley and people like that, right? Though I think Hal Hartley is more successful at kind of, you know, creating the type of quirkiness and tone and creating a richness out of it, because, you know, in Hal Hartley's films, kind of underneath the attitude, there's always kind of things going on, you know. Whereas I think kind of this is, to me, too surfacey. Mm.
Apropos of nothing, I saw Jim Jarmusch's latest film while you were away.
Yes.
This reminded me of it. I'd forgotten it completely. The Dead Don't Die, it's called. And it wasn't very good.
No.
No.
I mean,
talk about superficial. Like, this at least has characters.
I love this last one, the Patterson.
Yeah, well, I quite like Patterson.
Yeah, I think we talked about it.
I was hoping for an awful lot more from The Dead Don't Die, and it's...
Yes.
No, it's not written.
But actually, Patterson is a good comparison to this, because it is so much about kind of the tone, you know, and the attitude, and the characters, yeah. So,
actually, you know what, let me just quickly change what I said. The Dead Don't Die isn't bad, it's just terrible at the end. up until then, it builds a really nice kind of picture of a tiny little town and all these little people in it, and it's about zombies coming up, and then how this tiny little town, like Bill Murray plays the cop, and Adam Driver's his whatever partner, and you've got all these people, and you know they do build this lovely little world of all these people interacting, and like a couple of people come through town and then find the place a little bit weird and kooky, and they're sort of town people, you know, they're sort of city people. So that's all very nice, and actually the reason that I've taken against it so much is because it just spends it all so badly at the end. It just pisses it all away.
Right.
It has such a terrible third act. That's the problem.
Oh.
So watch 2/3 of it.
Interesting how that bothers you in that film, but I have a similar reservation about this film. That I think the ending is kind of...
Spoils it.
Well, it doesn't spoil it, because, you know, what happens between the brother and sister is quite charming, I think. But to leave out, you know, the only other two people in the film out of the ending is to me sloppy, you know.
That's fair enough.
So, anyway, it's called
It's called Cold Weather.
Cold Weather.
And it's on MUBI for the following 23 days. So by the time this comes out, you'll have 3 weeks left to watch it.
Yeah. And, you know, just of the 3 films we've seen, you know, my favorite has been O Fantasma. And then Border. And this is, you know, my least favorite so far. But actually, again, you know, just a sign of how well curated I think MUBI is, because, you know, I'm very glad I saw this. So.
Yeah, and it's still interesting and offers something.
Yes. So, thank you very much for listening. We are Eavesdropping at the Movies, and we are on
SoundCloud, iTunes, and YouTube, Facebook and Twitter, and the website is eavesdroppingatthemovies.com.
Excellent. Thank you very much for listening.
Bye-bye.